We live in an HD world. Our screens are much bigger than, say, like 40 years ago. Seeing poor quality video on a larger screen is not preferred. The video that's coming out from this camera is pretty good for this time period, right? We went from low resolution broadcasts and then analog standard definition, then digital standard definition, then HD up to 1080p, and finally 4K. The question is, why would anyone want to record and store diminished quality video? There are reasons. It's about usefulness, like using decreased frame rate footage for hours on end. For example, security cam footage. But even simple video can be used where visual quality is not key. A good example of this is, say, church services. Who cares about the video quality for the most part? What is heard is important. Does your news footage that you may need to archive absolutely need to be in HD? In several cases, no. So there are purposes in which a device that records in substandard definition can be used. We are going to be looking at a device called the Wolverine Transmedia and try to discover how to use such a device to its ultimate functionality. Because when it came out around 2017, diverse functionality is what it promised. This device, as a piece of hardware, is a solid, intuitive unit. It allows for standard composite signal in and can also receive input from both SD cards and USB thumb drives. It is able to output on the SD cards and USB thumb drives, as well as write to the DVD recorder right here, and act as a media player utilizing an HDMI port right there. So yeah, you could put in any sort of a 1080p media and then output it to your TV set. Finally, it sports a 4.25 diagonal screen. In fact, let me just turn it on for you here. You have to press and hold it for about 5 to 7 seconds, but eventually it'll turn on. And that allows you to monitor recording or view media files as well. All features are dependent on a dynamic menu system with settings that seem to operate differently depending on the feature you are trying to use. The challenge of the device, however, are the limitations set by the creators of the unit. Some are documented in here. Others are criminally not. And for such an intuitive unit, it isn't so intuitive in the way it performs. Whereas the Wolverine company seems to shoot themselves in their own foot. And many media newbies will be subject to confusion when trying to make this device work for them. But hey, it makes a great April Fool's gift for a media expert friend. That is, if you are currently willing to spend the current $199 for a new unit. To be frank, the cost was well over $360 when the device first came out. So how do we start capturing it with this device? Well, we need an output source that allows us to output with composite wires. It can be stereo, red and white for your stereo, and then yellow for your video, typical of your normal VCR, which is slowly becoming a kind of a foreign thing. If you want to expand that functionality, you can always get like an HDMI to AVI converter, upscaler, In this case, what I have is something that goes into, I have to plug that in too. An HDMI is going to go into this. It's going to break it off into component, and then component, and then to the composite. Reason why I have that way is that I do have an HDMI to AVI on its way, but this is the only equipment I had on hand at the moment. And then I got the splitter here, and what we're going to use the splitter for is not only split it to this unit, but we're also going to split it to a television set. In our examples, we're going to be using a Roku and some free services, of course. And you can also hook it up to things like laptops with HDMI or Blu-ray players, not to record copyrighted stuff, of course. But you know, the world is your oyster when you got devices like this. A laptop is actually kind of a cool thing to work off of because you can use it to record your Facebook videos, just full screen your Facebook vids or whatever, so you can have your friends' vids, blow it up and put it through this Wolverine Transmedia if you so choose. So this tutorial is going to have two objectives: writing with the MPEG format, MPG, and writing to disk. I will show examples and exceptions that happen with the MP4 format as well. You'll notice, though, that I do have this going both to the transmedia device, and we have it going to a television set as well. The reason why we're doing that is because when the Wolverine Transmedia records, it doesn't record with sound. I mean, it records the sound, but you don't hear it from anywhere. But by splitting the signal, we'll at least be able to watch the program that we're recording with sound. That way we don't have to be twiddling our thumbs to a really quiet television set. So when you scroll down and select Settings or Setup, you have a choice of the MPEG or MP4. We worry about the MPEG. You're given different speeds like HQ, HSP, SP, LP, and SLP. Depending on what you're doing, some of these speeds won't matter much with the MPEG, to be honest. I mean, they do matter with how it records to the disk, how much space is put on the disk. But when we do the video to DVD, it makes a difference because as you get down the list, the amount of data placed on the disk is much less. Let's choose HQ. So the HQ will affect more on the amount of data on the disk. Now we're doing this in the video format. That's what that is there. If we were doing a data disk, we could choose it right there. With the data, you can put multiple files on one disk. All right, so the auto stop timer, we're going to go ahead and put that on off. Doesn't really matter because the amount of time that they give us to write a DVD is very, very limited, and we'll show that. Auto chapter, we're going to go into this a little bit later, not for these first tests. Auto chapter gives you anywhere 5, 10, 15 minutes. I usually choose 10 minutes for when I do my recordings because it automatically breaks the file up into 10-minute recordings. It's not a disk thing as much as it's a separation with files. And I say 10 minutes because somehow the audio seems to be more in sync when I do that. But for this for the case of what we're doing here today, I'm going to go ahead and say off. Okay. Now, if you take the user manual here and you go to page 7, you will notice, let's see, with the auto chapter, if you set it off, it will split it into 30-minute chapters on the DVD disc. Or if you put it on USB, it will automatically separate it into 30 minutes. Now, when doing the direct-to-video to DVD capturing, that doesn't matter. Everything that you record for the certain time limit that you're trying to record it will get burned to the disk. However, the rules don't apply like that when you do put this stuff on the USB drive or on the SD card. Now, let's go back to the page, let's look at page 7 again of this manual. And it says that, let's see if we can see it here. Because we were talking about the data and DVD, data and video disc. It says you can burn multiple files on a blank disk. However, a video DVD can have just video files written on it. User can only burn one file on a disk. Again, that is very important to know, because if you write it going directly to video to DVD, it will capture the entire time amount that you're expecting to capture it. However, if you try to write it from SD card or USB, and you can only have one file, and those files are automatically broken up into 30-minute files or less. So the maximum amount of file space that you can have is 30 minutes. So we're going to cover that a little later in the video and how we're going to take care of it. But first, we're going to do a couple tests with how this device is supposed to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and eject our little CD thing here. Now we can let that load up a little bit. Okay, so we're on the menu screen. Let's bring it up to video USB card to DVD. We're going to choose video. And there we go. There we got our picture going. Now you'll notice right there it says remaining 30 minutes and 1 second. And over here it's got HQ. Let's take a look at a couple things here before we start our thing here. If we go back to setup, we change the speed, HSP. Choose that, video. You'll notice that the remaining time just gives us about 4 minutes and 40 seconds more. It's a slower speed, more compression and such. HSP right there. SP. So in SP, it gives us 50 minutes and 23 seconds. The LP mode, LP gives us 1 hour and 8 seconds. And finally, SLP.
Saturday at Movies, led by a legendary cast. This Oscar-winning American epic tells the story of
SLP gives us 1 hour, 22 minutes, 2 seconds. SLP is the lowest compression you can get, and therefore going from video to DVD, doing the video altering, that is as long as you can get on a single disc. Let's change that back to let's change that back to HQ.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know you were upset. Mr. Howard asked me to drive to the station. At this hour of the morning, he wanted to catch the 7:15. Only thieves and homegoing Casanova's catch the 7:15 train in the morning. Well, he took it. Did he take any luggage with him? No, sir, no luggage, sir. Did you want something, sir? Breakfast, if it isn't asking.
So we're at HQ, video to DVD, video. Now to start doing the movie, it's only going to record for 30 minutes. It'll stop automatically when it reaches that amount. We hit record pause. Nice thing about this machine is it does allow you to pause the recording. There it goes, turns red. Does allow you to pause the recording, say like for commercials, when you're recording, and then resume when you're ready to start again. We're going to wait till this starts burning and be back. Okay, so after the 30 minutes is done, it will show that it's burning and to wait for the CD to pop up. This is going to take quite a bit of time. I guess the basic way of saying this is it's probably going to take about a half hour to burn it on the disc. So yeah, here it is, 57 minutes later, and it's finally burning to DVD. And our disc is done. So, one other thing that I would like to show here is that you'd think that if the highest amount of time is 30 minutes and it's on HQ, they don't allow you to write any higher than that, you'd think that the whole disc would be filled, right? Let's see if I can get this so you can see this. Yeah, you can. So you see that? This is how much of the disc it filled. Just that small area there. And yet you couldn't write any higher than 30 minutes. The same would go with if you tried to write it at any of the other speeds, and be 34 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour, hour and 22 minutes. It will still take up around that same amount of space. So, with that in mind, that is not giving us our money's worth as far as footage that's being able to be written on the disk. So in the next part, I'm going to show how we can at least utilize quite a bit more disk space than that and get longer files.